Welcome to another edition of On Air with Mark. Oh boy, medieval times up in here. Okay, bloodletting. Looking back at bloodletting. So, me going through barber school, I actually learned quite a bit about bloodletting. So, the barber pull the red, white, and blue stripes, they all had meaning. Red was for the blood, white was for the bandages, and the blue was for the veins. So I learned a lot about that. And barbers, they were actually surgeons. Yes, enough about that. Time to get into bloodletting. So, what was the purpose of bloodletting? Bloodletting was the term given to the removal of blood for medical treatment. It was believed to rid the body of impure fluids to cure a host of conditions. Originally, bloodletting involved cutting a vein or artery, typically at the elbow or knee. Sounds very painful. To remove the affected blood. Okay, now I'm gonna get deeper into this. But looking back now, looking from 2024, staring into the past. Okay, now when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? Because I mean, back then the blood was everything, right? The the blood was considered to hold everything. So when you think about it, you drain some blood, therefore you get rid of diseases, right? Right? It it sounds pretty logical. Now, looking at it from the 2024 perspective, absolute savagery, absolute savagery, savages. Blood is only a very, very, very small factor that is connected to the overall picture of the human body and health. But you live and you learn, especially within the medical field. So here we go. So over time, specialized instruments and techniques, including the use of leeches, yeah, I remember that, were developed to make more precise cuts and improve control over how much blood was removed. And this information hat tip credit to healthline.com. So I was listening to something about hookworms, which I'm going to make another video on those filthy little savages. Blood was typically drained until you passed out. Oh wow. Damn, that sounds like a good time. Blood was typically drained until you passed out. Wow. Which for most people amounted to about 20 ounces of blood. It's difficult to say who came up with the idea of bloodletting, but there is evidence the practice was used as far back as 3,000 years ago. First by the ancient Egyptians, then the Greeks and Romans, through the Middle Ages and on to the Renaissance. To understand the reasoning behind bloodletting, you have to consider the limited understanding of disease during those periods. Exactly, and plus you have to don't use modern knowledge, use what they had, and then what they were dealing with. So you have to be fair. As same with today's medicine, I'm pretty sure that years from now we're gonna look back and be like, "What the hell were we thinking?" Okay. Around 5th century BC, Hippocrates determined that humans existed in the realm of the four basic elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and that elements were reflected in the four humors in the body: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Skip a little bit. By the 1600s, more physicians were beginning to question the science behind bloodletting, but habit, of course, but habit and public perception of its success kept the practice going for a few hundred more years. Success? Wow. In the late 1800s, a handful of physicians conducted studies that showed that bloodletting wasn't effective. Many historical figures throughout history were treated with bloodletting, including England's King Charles II was relieved of about 24 ounces of blood to treat seizures. George Washington fell ill with a fever and sore throat in 1799 and was dead less than a day later. Great. Evidence suggests that he died from a severe throat infection that caused fatal swelling and possibly sepsis. Sepsis. However, there are some historians who believe that removing 40% of Washington's blood volume, about 80 ounces in an 8-hour period, was extreme and less than helpful. No, no, of course not. No. Oh my god. So I could go on, but I'm running out of memory. So here we go. The big question: did bloodletting work? If by work you mean ending a disease process, then yes. Most of the people who died after bloodletting perished from diseases that were incurable in their time period, but bloodletting probably didn't help. There are actually some conditions that bloodletting may have inadvertently helped, but any improvement wasn't from balancing the body's humors. Instead, any positive effect probably came from reducing blood volume or harmful components in the blood that had built up in the human body. For example, high blood pressure may have been temporarily relieved in some cases of bloodletting simply through the reduction of blood volume. This fix, if not fatal, wouldn't have lasted long enough. One of the biggest risks of bloodletting was death. I'm not going to go into any more than that. That's pretty much the gist of it. Very, very interesting deep dive into bloodletting. So I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot. And most importantly, I hope y'all were entertained. Wow, this is interesting. Bloodletting is still a thing today as a form of alternative medicine in some parts of the world. Very interesting. So, very, very thankful that we moved on from that, and most importantly, we learned from it. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Look Back. Bloodletting. Very, very good thing that it's in the past. So, with that being said, On Air with Mark is now off air.